What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Professor Anime, and welcome back to yet again another Boruto Naruto Next Generations episode review. This is going to be on episode 31 of the Boruto series. So without further ado, let us begin. Now, before I begin this review, I just want to read you guys a little something regarding Boruto's eye, which I found completely interesting. It gives you some little, trivia and classification regarding his eye. And, the whole anime community has actually been stating that, Boruto's eye is actually a Tenseigan. Well, actually, it's something else entirely by the looks of it. And that's what I want to read to you guys. And also regarding his eye, it kind of did, appear in this episode as well, when Boruto and Kagura were working together to finally take down Shizuma. So I thought it was quite necessary to actually talk about this, since we haven't really seen Boruto's eye activate in quite some time. But it did activate briefly in this episode during the fight. So, alright, so this text comes from the Naruto wiki, and the trivia states this. One of the animators of Boruto Naruto Next Generations posted a picture on his blog that shows Boruto cleaning his right eye. The caption of the picture reads, Jogan, literally meaning pure eye. And in the accompanying text, the animator elaborated that Boruto's eye was neither a Byakugan nor a Tenseigan, but officially called Jogan. He also explained that the eye is related to the Otsutsuki clan's dimension, and its powers is the dojutsu equivalent of Naruto's ability to sense negative emotions. However, he then noted that all this information will be explained in detail in the future, and fans should not think too much about it for now, as the author hadn't thought everything through himself. So yeah, apparently Boruto's eye is actually called a dojutsu and is neither a Tenseigan nor a Byakugan. So that is actually very, very interesting. Not a Tenseigan, not a Byakugan. It is actually a whole new eye that is related to the Otsutsuki clan's dimension, and is titled the Dojutsu. So that is all the information we have regarding Boruto's eye, and we have seen what it's capable of to a certain extent, but we still don't really have a solid grasp as to what its capabilities are and its overall power, and vice versa, So I'm very interested to see, how the eye will develop from here on out and will aid Boruto in combat, because at the moment we still see Boruto not really knowing at times when it's actually awakening. So yeah, when it comes down to Boruto's eye, it is still quite up in the air as to, what exactly it's capable of, where its origins are from, the powers that it has, blah, 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 blah. There's still a lot of mystery that is surrounding his eye, and even the animators are kind of unaware as to how exactly they want to handle the whole developmental process regarding Boruto's eye and how it's going to play a role in the future of the series. But we'll eventually get to that when we get to that. But to know that Boruto's eye is neither a Tenseigan or a Byakugan is, quite interesting. It's actually called a Dojutsu. Completely new thing here. So to learn more about that will be quite interesting. So yeah, I just thought that was something quite, interesting to talk about. That's why I wanted to bring that all of you to your attention. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about that source of information there. Alright, so now it's time for the review for episode 31 of Boruto. So when it comes down to this episode, I was actually pleasantly surprised when it came down to this episode. Now, granted, I did state that Boruto in last week's review will in fact end up using some type of talk no jutsu when it comes to, Kagura, and he does in fact do that in this episode, so that really shouldn't have come as a surprise for everyone. And also, regarding Kagura's character, we already know he's not really a bad individual, and we know that he was quite hesitant when it came down to his overall thinking process when he was actually going along with Shizuma. So in a sense, I guess we can't really say that Boruto did in fact use talk no jutsu on Kagura, because of the fact that Kagura was still very conscious of, what he was doing, and also at the same time he was very hesitant on actually hurting his friends in the process. He was fighting back to prove his point, to get them to, fucking back off, but I mean, all in all, he did not want to hurt Boruto and his friends. So when it comes down to, Boruto actually pulling Kagura away from Shizuma. While, yes, there was probably a bit of a talking no jutsu there, it wasn't, I guess, as, effective as compared as someone who looks like they're pure evil and then all of a sudden they're brought back to, reality and are suddenly good and whatnot, because, that would have been stupid. That would have been stupid. Kagura was pretty much a nice individual throughout the entirety of this whole arc, and he was quite well aware of the, situations that were going underneath the village and also what he was doing in the first place. So when it comes to Boruto actually talking him out of things, it's probably not as, I don't really have a problem with it, is what I'm trying to say. And I mean, hey, Boruto even stated to Kagura, that you are the one that said that you can change your own life. Didn't you say that, Kagura? And Kagura, a couple episodes back, did in fact say that when they were playing the game of Shinobi Bout. So he is well aware that he can change, by himself. And that's exactly what Kagura did here. Boruto kind of just gave him a little bit of a, guideline, so to speak, and then Kagura is the individual who chose that, hey, maybe I should, in fact, back off. I'll take the punishment that needs to be done, but I cannot work with Shizuma no more. So, regarding that factor, I think, it was quite acceptable as to how exactly that all played out. Now, in the last review that I did for Boruto episode 30, I actually stated that most likely we are going to see Boruto versing, Kagura, which in fact did happen in this episode, but it wasn't really the primary focus. The primary focus of this episode's fight was the fight between Shimada and Boruto, and I mean, technically everyone, in a way, kind of went at it with Shimada. I mean, we had Mitsuki, Boruto, and also Kagura going up against Shimada. While Chojuro, on the other hand, was going to, evacuate everyone from, the village, to get them to safety, so to speak. And also, we had Iwabe taking care of Sarada, which was to be expected as well. But I remember in my, previous review that I did, I stated that, most likely we're going to see Boruto versus Kagura, which in fact did happen. But I did not expect that Boruto, was going to go at it with Shimada, because I thought, honestly, Chojuro would have, he really should have fought Shimada, getting a little bit of redemption, because, I mean, hey, man, you had a hard time, going up against those legendary swordsmen. I mean, they're technically not even legendary, mind you. They're just kind of people who stole weapons, angsty teenagers who just, stole the weapons just to look cool and whatnot, thinking they can do what they want with it. But hey, at the end of the day, they are very inexperienced. I mean, look what happened to Shimada. So, how the fuck, Chojuro, did you fucking get almost killed by these guys? Anyways, just to see that whole fight play out between Boruto, Shimada, Kagura, and also Mitsuki was very cool to see. I really liked how that fight was handled. And then we had, Kagura at the very end fight off with Shimada himself, proving, that, he is actually responsible for this whole, well, he is partly responsible for this whole, coup d'etat that was taking place, so he had to redeem himself by taking out Shimada, and Chojuro, accepted that. And when we saw, Shimada being consumed by Samahada, which is the legendary sword that Kisame used to use, I thought that was very cool. I thought that was very cool on how exactly that played out. I thought, because looking at it now, regarding Samahada from, Naruto Shippuden, I remember that Samahada did have a mind of its own when it came to absorbing chakra, and it did make sense, in fact, that if there is a inexperienced wielder, who is trying to, use Samahada, Samahada will most likely take control over its wielder and devour their chakra, and that's exactly what we saw from Samahada and Shizuma in this episode of Boruto. Samahada completely took control over Shimada's body, so I thought that was kind of cool. It did make sense, and when we saw Kagura, end the fight between it was also cool. So regarding, how everything played out when it came down to the overall fighting, I really, really did enjoy that. So yeah, I believe next episode of Boruto will actually be the conclusion of this arc, the end of the field trip arc. I guess that is what you would call it. I'm not exactly sure if this, arc has an actual name yet, but let's just title it the field trip arc. But anyway, next arc should be the conclusion to pretty much everything, and we will most likely see a punishment being taken place between the individuals who led the coup d'etat, including Kagura, but Kagura will probably get, the lesser known punishment of everyone who, because he was influenced in a way. He still followed with the actions to, continue on with the coup d'etat and bring about a new order in the hidden Mist Village, but at the same time, he was very hesitant on, his actions. He was aware of what he was doing, but as I said, he was more so manipulated by Shizuma. So Shizuma and the rest of the group will most likely get, the worst of the punishment, while Kagura will in fact get, some type of punishment, but it'll be to a lesser degree, so to speak, and he will learn from this to, better himself and to actually, kind of like be Chojiro's right-hand man to a certain degree, to redeem himself. So that's what I'm expecting to happen in next week's episode of Boruto, and then of course Boruto and the gang are going to head back to the Hidden Leaf Village, and then we will head into hopefully a brand new arc. So yeah, when it comes down to this, whole arc that we have seen thus far of the Boruto series, we're going to the Hidden Mist Village, getting introduced to these new characters, and all these fights that were taking place, I actually did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I found some things to be quite interesting. Now, when it comes to some of the characters, I'm not gonna lie, they are pretty bland, especially when it came down to the villains. I mean, it was just kind of like, let's just raise a coup d'etat because I am angry about the fact that this is how, the Hidden Mist Village is reduced to compared to what we used to were before. I mean, it's like, okay, I don't care. Like, for example, like episode 30, the individual that was fighting Sarada, we only saw like a slight glimpse of her past. Like 5 seconds were pretty much as a kid. And honestly, I did not care for her whatsoever. See, if we can learn more about characters, getting, not just flashbacks from them, but also a little bit more clarification as to, their overall motives, goals, and what have you, and you can sympathize with the characters. If you make your characters complex, we will better understand those characters and therefore care for them as characters. And that's what I want to see, when it comes down to the future villains of, Boruto. I want to see good villains, because when it came down to the villains in this arc, while I love the fact that this arc was quite interesting on how it brought back the legendary swordsman, so to speak, when it came down to the, well, swords at least, not the individuals, I like the mythos behind that, but regarding the wielders were very bland as characters. So I'm hoping later down the line when it comes to Boruto, we're going to get a lot more interesting villains, stronger villains, and, just individuals who will pose more of a threat to, our main characters, So I want to see that. I want to see that, because if Boruto can do that, I'm pretty sure this series would be a lot more interesting for some viewers out there. I know that this is a shonen series, and this is more so aimed at, a new generation of Naruto fans, kids, mind you, but, I mean, I'm pretty sure they can, do the best of their ability to make a more interesting villain than Shizuma. So, yeah. When it comes down to my overall thoughts for this episode of Boruto, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. As I said, though, let's hopefully, get a change of pace when it comes down to the villains of this series, and we should be golden. So yeah, when it came down to this arc, I found it very interesting. Love the mythos behind it, and I love the fights that were playing out, and I'm curious to how next episode is going to play out as well, and where the future of the series of Boruto is going to go from here on out. So with that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and hit that red subscribe button down below if you want to see more content from me here on the channel. And with that said, everyone, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.